Hi everyone, this is Bence. I recently released my latest game called Leave Me Alone on itch.io. It is basically my first game, which I consider a real game. It has rather good looking graphics, and it has a proper gameplay, and a proper beginning, and a proper end. It was a puzzle game, and since I'm not too experienced with puzzle games, the feedback was extremely important. The game was made for a game jam, and the submitted games were presented during a stream. Unfortunately, I could not participate in it, but it also meant that I had to watch the broadcast later and see how the participants struggle with my puzzles, which I thought were very easy and straightforward. Now I would like to show what I learned from watching the stream and of course sending my game out to friends and other game developers. So what I learned from their feedback. This of course will include graphics, gameplay. In the second part, I would like to present how I improve my game based on the feedback. So of course this part will include spoilers. Part 1, general feedback. Graphics. So one of the feedback I got was how good the game looked compared to my previous projects. Good graphics can make or break a game in terms of first impressions, but I personally think that a distinct visual style is far more important than just quote-unquote good graphics. I usually use free assets from the Unity asset store, so I had to focus on the looks of individual assets instead of a coherent style. For a jam game or a small personal project, it is more than enough, but for anything more serious, you might want to invest in a few asset packs for the coherence, or make the assets yourself. Using good quality assets is just one part of the visual experience. To really set the mood, you need post-processing and lighting, and this is where I made mistakes. I added around 100 lights. This is not a problem in itself, but you either need to bake in most of the lights into light maps, or disable lights that are out of the player's vision. I did neither of those, which caused observable frame rate drops. Gameplay. I received most of the feedback in this area. First of all, you need to tell the player what they can and can't do. You can include a lot of good game mechanics, but if the player is not aware of it, it worth nothing. What I also learned, and it is especially true for puzzle games, is that everyone thinks differently. I thought that my puzzles were generally easy, but after seeing other people play, I had to realize each puzzle could be interpreted in multiple different ways, and that my intended solution is not as straightforward as I thought. This, of course, is inevitable unless you want to make pathetically easy puzzles, so you might want to implement some kind of hint system. Usually, a few good hints are enough to make the player aware of your interpretation of the puzzle and come up with the intended solution themselves. Using clutter to make the environment more vibrant is usually the way to go, but in puzzle games the amount of clutter should be reduced to a minimum. Players do not know for certain what is part of the solution and what is not, so reduce the non-puzzle elements to a bare minimum. And last but not least, having parts of a puzzle apart is not necessarily a bad thing, but in that case make sure that the player can become aware of the connection instead of thinking the parts belong to different puzzles. Now, I will start part 2 of the video, in which I explain how I improve my game based on the feedbacks. This part will contain spoilers, so if you want to try the game first, do so, close the video, and then you can watch it later. Graphics. I am not proud of myself, but I totally ignored this part. It would have taken me a lot of time to fix the lighting, and the end product would not have been much more enjoyable. However, in my next project, I want to create a level where I take lighting into account. I want to clearly separate lighting by rooms, which can be turned off and on separately, and bake light maps whenever possible. It is especially important for me because I want to make bigger maps in the future. Gameplay. Many people told me that the mouse was too sensitive and they had to reduce their mouse DPI to make the game playable. This came to me as a surprise because I included the option to change the mouse sensitivity. What was the problem then? Well, I did not communicate it anywhere. Having menus is my obsession. No matter how small game I make, I always add a menu which the player can usually access by pressing escape. But most indie games, especially jam games, are not like that, and if I do have this feature, I need to communicate it to the player because this is not what they usually expect. This is the same thing with interactions. It might be evident for me that grabbing a thing requires me to hold a button instead of just clicking one, but not every player is like me. And of course, I added a hint system as well as making the player aware of this function and how to use it. I also changed the first puzzle to make it more player friendly. The puzzle consisted of 3 elements: a note on the door with the word cry, 4 paired paintings with distinct main colors, and 4 levers with the same colors as the paintings. The problem was here that while people realized that the paintings and levers are connected, they ignored the note on the door and instead used the orientations of the pictures as well as their titles. And even if they included the note, they usually did not realize that crying is associated with sadness. Therefore, the solution is to find pictures that depict a feeling similar to this and use the corresponding levers. To make the puzzle more easy, I moved the note next to the levers and changed the text so that it includes the name of the pictures required for the solution. Another thing I changed was in the room with the 6 levers. Each lever had a candle on top with different heights. The solution was to activate the corresponding levers in ascending order. While the puzzle was not as difficult as the one with the pictures, the solution was not trivial because measuring length on a monitor is not easy. So I added more candles to the levers. The first has 1, the last has 6. The solution is the same as before. Activate the levers in a given order, but it is easier to execute. Thank you for listening to me for this long. My plan is to gradually move all my postmortems and lessons learned into a video format. I also want to post devlogs about future projects. See you in the next video. Bye.